Well, to discuss that Syrian resolution at the United Nations, we're joined now by Mr. Webster Tarpley, who is an author and historian who's joining us now on the line from Washington. Mr. Tarpley, thank you very much for joining us. Now, arguments have been made both for and against the fact that the adoption of such a resolution can give the green light to a military intervention in Syria. Where do you stand on that?
Well, it's hard to see how this could make any armed action legal just because of the way the UN is set up. Those resolutions, the Chapter 7 Armed Force International Peace and Security resolutions, have to go through the Security Council. And as you mentioned, this particular one has already been rejected twice with the crossed vetoes of the Chinese and the Russians, once in October and now again in February. It is rather a kind of sour grapes. It's a kind of a desperate ploy by Susan Rice and her gang of puppets and people that she bosses around to try to bring this through the UN General Assembly. I think it's also interesting to see who voted against this, because it's a very large part of the world. The largest country geographically, Russia, was against it. The largest demographically, China, was against it. Syria, of course, the most interested, was against it. The leading country in Latin America, Venezuela, against it, joined by Bolivia, Cuba, and Ecuador. Sri Lanka, who have had some experience with terrorism sponsored by the Western countries themselves. Pakistan, one huge and important country. Belarus, Cambodia, the DPRK, that's pretty much the group. The honor roll of the 12 that stood up to imperialism, and of course Iran has a key place in that. So these are the countries that people will look to politically for leadership against imperialism in our time. Certainly they won't be looking to Ban Ki-moon, who is not really acting as the UN Secretary General, but rather as a kind of a spokesperson for the White House and number 10 Downing Street and the Elysee Palace. The one thing I would point to is that when London and Washington don't get what they want through legal means, they attempt to create an outside event. And this, of course, raises once again the specter of false flag terror operations conducted to try to demonize Syria or some other part of this coalition, and so those sooner rather than later. We're already beginning to pick up straws in the wind, right? When you look out over the internet, people are beginning to circulate reports about air traffic and planned events. None of these can be verified, but they start in March and they go all the way through May, June, into the summer. So I think it's time for tremendous vigilance and to inoculate world public opinion that terror events that seem to emanate from Syria at this point must be attributed rather to the Western or NATO intelligence agencies.
Mr. Tarpley, you covered a bit of this, but could you discuss a bit about the method that has been used by the sponsors of this resolution and having it being passed? I mean, especially with the rejection of amendments that had been put forth by Russia, which would seemingly make the resolution much more balanced.
Right. It's a one-sided resolution, and the Russian amendments would have helped matters, but they were simply dismissed out of hand. The other question is whether there's going to be any negotiation between the two sides within Syria. The U.S. and NATO position is that there must be no dialogue, that the dialogue is out of the question. So that, I think, is obviously wrong. The other thing is, even with the Russian amendments, I don't think the UN has gotten a clear idea of what's going on, which is the reality of death squads. In other words, this is a rebellion on a small scale by death squads who are supported from places like Turkey, Iskandarun. We just had reports on Al Jazeera this afternoon about all the weapons that are coming across from Lebanon, where presumably Saad Hariri and other people are making sure that weapons are shipped into cities like Hama and Homs. The Jordanian border remains the other hot area, Daraa, and then the border with Iraq. So it's a completely fomented from outside rebellion. It doesn't control any territory, and
right.
It is completely fragmented. Anyone who says that fighting against an armed insurrection is somehow a crime is saying that Abraham Lincoln would have been a criminal, because that's exactly what he did under conditions that were
I do apologize for interrupting you, Mr. Tarpley, but it seems that we have run out of time. That was Mr. Webster Tarpley, author and historian, joining us on the line from Washington. Mr. Tarpley, as always, we do appreciate your insight here at Press TV.